Okay, this is a 1x walnut, another 1x walnut. We call them 1x's, but they're actually 3/4 inch. 1 inch is the nominal thickness, but they're actually 3/4 of an inch when you talk about a board. And I've laminated 3 of them together. 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, which is 2 1/4. So this is a 2 1/4 inch block of walnut, about 6 inches length, approximately 4 inches in width, and it will become a stock. And if you're going to do something like that, you know, if you're going to put it on a buffer tube, well, you got to drill this hole to equal your buffer tube. So a lot of buffer tubes are 1, 1 1/8, 1 1/4, whatever it may be. And if you use a paddle bit, well, it's pretty difficult to drill that all the way through and be accurate on the other end. They do make paddle bits and different drill bits, spiral bits, that you could do it in one pass on a drill press, but still that drill is going to take its own path through that wood. In my woodworking experience, it's going to take the path of least resistance, and that hole here might not be the same centered section as where it comes out here. It's going to take the path of least resistance. It's going to, you know, the wood's going to move that bit, even if it's a large bit. So in my experience, you should probably do a pilot hole with something small. And this is a 3/16 custom made. It was a longer drill bit. I cut it to 9 inches length. And on my drill press, if you drill, you know, you find your center wherever you want to do your hole. Take your time, go through, come out the other end, and you know, you come out and remove your sawdust, whatever. Anyways, you'll have a pilot hole on the one end and a pilot hole on the other end. And let's say you're going to do a 1 inch hole. You can drill your hole halfway through on your drill press, and then flip your piece and drill your other half this way. And they should meet up pretty darn close. Whenever I did this project, I took my time, and it was off by about a 32nd of an inch. And inside, after you do that, you can smooth out the inside and have a pretty nice smooth interior. So this hole centered is pretty centered with this side as well. It's a little off, but not much. Probably about a 32nd of an inch, which I can live with. If you do the drill, if you do the hole without without centering it, if you just do it in one shot, you're probably not going to be happy. You're going to start here, and when you come out the other end, you're going to be off by quite a bit. So this is eventually going to be a stock. I'm drawing out the shape of it. Okay, then we put a relief cut. We cut a nice relief cut right through here and all the way through to the hole. and that'll provide a tightening. It'll tighten on the buffer tube. If you notice, that you'll see that close in, and that'll tighten on the buffer tube and clamp onto it eventually when it's completely done. A couple of screws here will provide that tightening, so you'll tighten that up. And then I shaped the, started to shape the, how it's going to look. And we'll do some sanding on the belt sander. I think I'm going to also shape that, probably with the bandsaw first. Okay, I took off some material with the bandsaw, so I don't have to, when I take it to my sander, my belt sander, I don't have to remove so much material, so I just really just shaved off a piece here and another chunk there. Prior to that though, I did drill my 2 holes while the surface was flat before I took those pieces off, because my screws are going to go in those 2 holes to tighten this thing up. So I'll go ahead and take these other corners off a little bit. Okay, I hit this with the belt sander, probably 100, 120 grit with the belt sander, stationary, and then a hand sander, probably 180 grit, and now I'm using a 220 grit and doing a final hand sanding. So that's walnut. It's looking pretty good, but oh, and I also put another relief cut in to make that a little larger, and it is off center, unfortunately, but I'm going to hide that with probably some kind of a plate in the back. I also tapered it with the bandsaw. This is a small angled foregrip I also made out of walnut. So you would hold it like this. Very, very minimal, but it matches the stock. And I'm sanding it down finally with a 220 grit. So I shaped it to my liking, right there. Okay, after sanding, doing a final sanding with some number 0 steel wool, which really got it down very fine and nice and smooth, I varnished this, or I polyurethaned it with an oil-based varathane polyurethane. I usually use water-based polyurethane, but the prices of that is like 3-4 times the price it should be right now during the COVID. I just can't see spending that much money for water-based polyurethane, so I just used what I had around the house, some oil-based. This is good stuff too, but it takes longer to dry. Actually, after it cures, it's harder than a water-based polyurethane, so all in all, it's a better product if you're willing to work with it. So I countersunk the holes to accept the bolts I'm going to use to draw that in so it attaches correctly. Here's some of the bolts I'm going to be using, and I painted them black. Kind of difficult to find black machine screws, so usually you have to paint them yourself because you have to also cut them to the length you want. So I'll be using these. Pretty nice finish. This is the first coat. I'll sand it again, coat it a second time, sand it again, at least give it 3 coats. But walnut looks really nice. Just putting just a coat of polyurethane on it darkens it up and just looks so nice and rich. If your buffer tube has a squared bottom like this, which most do, it's not perfectly round. If it's got a square bottom, remember you have to put a square notch in the stock to accept that, and you would do that with the bandsaw through that relief cut. for time-saving purposes, we're not going to show you how to do that. Okay, there it is completed. I added a rubber pad here for comfort, and it also hides that relief cut, and a Magpul quick detach for a sling. You know, it's not for everybody, but I wanted to do something different instead of always the usual black or olive drab green polymer stuff. Just wanted to mix some wood with one of my guns. Well, thanks for watching.